We spent a lot of time talking about there's an anonymous coach in a meeting interview with Shedeur Sanders at the Combine, and this is apparently a team that's in the top 7 as far as draft order, and there was a coach who said that Shedeur Sanders came off arrogant and brash. We talked to Matt Miller of the Mothership, draft analyst. He's not very high on Shedeur Sanders, the football player, but this just sort of, I don't know, came out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden opinions are coming, fast and furious. Trevor Sikkema, he is the lead analyst for Pro Football Focus, and you have a strong opinion on Shedeur Sanders as well. Trevor, good to have you back. Where do you stand on Shedeur Sanders?
Yeah, appreciate it, Dan. First off, 5'11", 170, 8 7/8 inch hand size, although that is with no hand massaging going on. So I feel like if we get a couple of weeks with that technique, I can hit that Joe Burrow 9-inch threshold. So I just want to say that first and foremost. With Shedeur Sanders, the fact of the matter is I had him slipping out of my post-combine mock draft that I did over at PFF.com. And the reason why is because I could not find anybody that spoke with conviction with Shedeur Sanders being QB1, taken in the top 10, or even as a first-round quarterback. So to me, when I hear that and I line that up with a lot of people were talking about Cam Ward as somebody that you take that chance on, I feel like it's a one-quarterback race at this point. Now, when I watch Shedeur, he plays a very clean brand of football. He understands the position very, very well. You could tell that he's been raised around the game. He understands how to read defenses, go through progressions, all of that, operate the pocket, make protection calls. He knows how to play quarterback. The reason why I'm a little bit lower on him, I gave him a late second, early third round grade, is simply because I don't know if he's got that crazy arm talent to be able to compete against the Lamar Jacksons, the Josh Allens, the Patrick Mahomes, guys like that, that the reason why you would draft a quarterback isn't in the top 10 isn't just because, hey, let's take one just because we need one. It's because you want to win a Super Bowl. You're taking a guy that high because you believe he can win a Super Bowl. Does Shedeur have the overall arm talent to match up against those guys? I don't think so. And I think as we are getting, more into draft season, and the combine's a really good barometer for this, you get sort of caught up on what the league might have been thinking about these players really all along. And I think that we talked about a 2 QB race because there's so many quarterback needy teams in the top 10, but it just feels like teams are much more gravitating towards Cam Ward worthy of a top selection, and Shedeur maybe something more on day 2 or the late first round.
But how much of this is the last name? That if this is just, Shedeur Smith and not Shedeur Sanders, does his draft status stock change at all in your mind?
I would say that it would probably be the other way around. When you look at Shedeur, and I understand how well he played over the last couple of years and everything that he was able to do at Jackson State and then also at Colorado. I think, again, he plays a very clean brand of football, but does he have those NFL level traits that you want as a franchise caliber quarterback? Because he lacks the overall mobility. And again, I think that he's got a mid-tier NFL level arm strength, but it's nothing that's really special. So I wonder if it's the opposite, DP. And I wonder if it's the fact that, hey, we've been talking about Shedeur in the top 10, in the top 5, because of sort of who he is and the notoriety that he has, instead of the other way around, like we're seeing now, where it's like, oh, well, does the NFL not like him, because of his last name? And some people call it baggage. I agree with Shedeur when he said at the Shrine Bowl, he's like, I didn't know that having a supportive parent was all of a sudden a bad thing. I totally agree with him when he says that. And so I think it's much more of maybe the notoriety and him being in the public eye and us saying like, hey, if you need a quarterback, he's a quarterback in this class. And now we're just sort of catching up to it. Feels like the NFL saying, maybe not quite in the top 10, maybe something a little bit further down the line.
And he's going to get a lot of attention because he's Deion's son. And then there's Cam Ward, who appears to be by far and away the number 1 quarterback in the draft. Let's nitpick, because that's what we start to do this time of the year, Trevor. Nitpick Cam Ward.
Well, I think that Joe Schoen, the general manager of the New York Giants, who they very much need a quarterback as well. He was asked specifically about Cam Ward when he was at his podium session at the Combine, and he said, hey, you watch that Cal game and that Virginia Tech game. Those are 2 games where at the end of it, when the clock hits 0, Cam Ward, what a hero, incredible comeback. But then he goes, the reason why they needed to come back is also because of him a little bit. So it is a little bit of that hot and cold there. And so there's no doubt. I mean, like, you don't need to even necessarily call it nitpicking to talk about what is the total product of Cam Ward. He's somebody who is just very unorthodox in how he looks back there in the pocket. I mean, there are times when the feet just stop moving completely and you go, did you freeze? Like, do we need to, unplug you and reset you here before you get rid of the ball? And like, that's just sometimes what it looks like for Cam Ward. And so his style, how he releases the football, the decisions of when to push the ball down the field, all of that, it's a little bit boom or bust. It's a little bit of like, can you stomach this? But the reason why I do, and the reason why he's my QB1, is because I firmly believe that in a game where the margins are so small, every quarterback in the NFL has about 2 to 4 throws that they have to make every single week to win in this league. Cam not only, in my opinion, has the arm talent to do so, but he has the mentality to do so. He will willingly attack those throws and take those chances. So it's a lot of that. Hey, there's a lot of good, a lot of bad. You want to try to raise the floor with them. But yeah, I mean, we don't even necessarily have to call it nitpicking. This is sort of a risky quarterback class here, including with Ward. Trevor
Sikkema, the Pro Football Focus lead draft analyst, joining us on the program. If you looked at Sam Darnold's profile now compared to when he was coming into the NFL, how much has it changed with Pro Football Focus looking at him?
No, it's a lot. And it's a lot of dealing with pressure, honestly. What he was able to do at USC, I think that sort of shows that, when you're in a really good college environment, sometimes that can mask things, right? We saw that with Zach Wilson as well, where at BYU, he was playing behind one of the best offensive lines in the country. And then he gets to the New York Jets, both of those guys, ironically, and it's just a different story. You're playing with a lot of pressure. There's the phrase that everybody likes to, continue to bring up with Sam Darnold, where he felt like he was seeing ghosts. And it took him a while to get to this point where he's now confident enough to not see ghosts anymore, to really be able to play under pressure the way that he needs to. Now, I know those last 2 games of the season sort of brought back some of those doubts from him, but at PFF, it was really that passing grade under pressure that was such a sticking point with him when he was with the Jets, and how different it was under Kevin O'Connell and in that system. Now, did O'Connell do a nice job of making it maybe easier for him? Of course, but that manifests itself in confidence, and that's the most important thing for every player making the jump from college to the NFL. When can you expect that confidence? And I think that's a big part of when teams do these player interviews and when they get these guys in for these private workouts. It's simply determining, because they've watched the tape, they know the scouting reports. It's simply determining, are you a confident football player? Can you hit the ground running and still bring all of your talent to the floor here when you get here in the NFL? And for Sam, that wasn't the case early on, but sometimes it takes a little bit of development from these guys.
How many running backs have first-round grades at Pro Football Focus?
So I would say 2 of them have first-round grades in Ashton Jeanty and Omarion Hampton. But I could see after the combine that Quinshon Judkins had from Ohio State, I think he is in that category. Caleb Johnson, I know a lot of people love him from Iowa. I think that he is in that category. The running back that I am the most confused with is, did we just forget what Cam Skadabo did at Arizona State over this past year? Like, I understand he's not going to run the fastest 40-yard dash, but even at the combine, the one thing he did was the vertical jump, and it was 39.5 inches. That is well above expectation and showcases that explosiveness. I mean, we even saw in the college football playoff, he's rushing for touchdowns. He's catching touchdowns. He's throwing for touchdowns. This is a football player, man. And from the running back position, I think that we sometimes focus on the wrong things. How often do you really have the chance to be a quote-unquote home run hitter at the running back position? How many times do you get the chance to run a 40, 50, 60-yard gain to the house? It doesn't happen at the NFL level. Give me the guys that will turn a 3-yard carry into a 4.5-yard carry on a regular basis with that yards after contact and that style. So I don't think that Cam Skadabo is going to go in round 1, but that's another player that we're going to get a lot of these running backs that go on the fringe or early parts of round 2. I mentioned Caleb Johnson, Skadabo. I think that Travion Henderson is in there as well. A couple of guys who had good combines, and DJ Giddens and RJ Harvey might get there in the back of the second round. So I would tell you, we're getting at least 2. I think at least Ashton Jeanty and Omarion Hampton are getting in the first round, but could very well have that third if it's Quinshon Judkins.
Great to talk to you as always, Trevor. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it, DP. Anytime.
That's Trevor Sikkema, the lead draft analyst for Pro Football Focus. All right, so those are two guys, well-respected guys in the industry, and both saying the same thing. Shedeur Sanders might not be a first-round talent.